me, Audrey Lee, and I'd like to welcome you to Marriage and More. And this week we're going to talk about relationships, setting boundaries, what are your deal breakers, your do's, your don't, and things like that. So this should definitely be an exciting show. So with that being said, let's just jump right in, ladies, talking about those boundaries. We could start, I would say, with our children. I want to go there first because me and my mom were just having this conversation talking about boundaries and the boundaries that she set with us growing up, and how, in today's society, it seems like parents are trying to be their children's friend more than they are a parent. And so when discipline needs to take place, it's difficult to do it because there are no boundaries being set. There are no limitations on anything. Like for myself, with the girls, they know they have a set bedtime. They know that TV time is limited. They know that, computer time, we pay attention to that. And they also know that they can come to us and communicate. And you can say what you want to say, but you need to say it in a respectful way, in a respectful tone. Because, we want to give them a voice. We don't want them to not have a voice because as they grow up, it affects them. Also, by setting boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. And that's where the respect comes into play. Because people see, your actions and what you will accept and what you want. And that's what they're going to base off of how they treat you and how they interact with you. And I would even say with me and the profession that I'm in, dealing with children on a constant basis, they pretty much can tell what the do's or don't is without me even having to say it sometimes. Every now and then I might get one that kind of want to test the waters a little bit. And then I just let them know. And I don't do it in a disrespectful way or, but I am firm, and even with children, they deserve respect, and I think a lot of times people say, oh, that's just a kid. They need to stay in the kid's place, which is true, but they do deserve respect. I see you laughing. I know you have something.
I just think what you're saying. People say that the kids need to be in a kid's place, and I just hear that all the time from adults. It was just funny.
Because it's true. I mean, it really is. But it's like we have to know what that really means, and what that entails. It doesn't mean that you shut up and if I want you to have an opinion, I'll give it to you. And I'll be honest, my mom was like, that's the kind of raising they came up under, that upbringing. It was like, you better not say nothing really. Because you beat and got hit. But, she always said that her and my aunts always wanted to kind of change it up when they started raising us to teach us to communicate and give us a voice. Does anybody have any comments on that or any thoughts concerning boundaries and children and relationships and just, thinking about, I believe we all have children and,
Well, I can certainly relate to that. When I was growing up, from a very, very large family. There were 9 boys and 4 girls, so
Wow.
my parents had to set some boundaries.
Yes.
And one of the things I can think of right off is that it was like children are to be seen and not heard.
Yes. That is true.
And even when people came to visit on Sundays, you didn't stick around and listen to adult conversation.
That is so true.
You went out to play. You didn't even eat with the adults. Now that I think about it, you played and had a good time, and then when the guests left for home, then you could come in and eat. But in rearing my own children, I did a little bit differently. The thing was, I respected them and they respected me in turn. So I taught them that you have to expect certain boundaries, but your opinions are heard, not necessarily reacted on those experiences or what you have to say, but I would listen. We would listen to them, but the ultimate decision was ours.
Exactly.
As parents.
And I think that that's great because, again, like you said, I'm giving you that space to express yourself. But I also know that these boundaries are set in place for a reason. And then also, on top of that, I love the fact of when you set boundaries, I think that you set something up where disrespect doesn't have to occur. you know, and so many people feel like their personal rights are being infringed on because they don't have boundaries. Some people feel like, oh, you got to demand respect, command respect, and I think I like the word command better, because when you come in, it's just unsaid. It's your presence, your very aura, you know, exhibits, okay, she requires a certain amount of respect. She requires this and that, you know, and some people just don't have that, and I think that goes a lot with self-esteem and worth, you know. And I remember we were discussing the different personality types and how, you know, some people can be very quiet and very passive, and that's how they end up getting run over, because they don't have boundaries and they don't, you know, command respect, and probably feel like they don't deserve respect. Also, let's get to the nitty gritty, because I know people are like ready for this one. You know, relationships, like whether it's a marriage or a dating relationship, you know, having boundaries. My grandmother used to say this to me, and I want feedback from you guys on what it means to you. When I first started dating my husband, you know, well, when we got grown enough where we didn't have to hide it anymore, I'm just gonna tell the truth. And she was like, you always want to start out how you want to finish. And at the beginning, I was like, what she mean by that? You know, I was like, okay. So I just kind of took it, but I learned the hard way what she meant. But somebody give me some feedback. What do you guys think when someone tells you you always want to start something the same way you want to finish it?
Basically, I mean, that seems like it's saying whatever you were doing when you started, you need to be still doing those same things as the relationship goes on. You know, like some people, you know, they do a whole lot of things to get that mate, but then once they get them, they kind of take them for granted and start slacking off on the things that they like that they did for the person. So I guess that's kind of what.
That's good feedback.
But by the same token, you can also say that the way you started, the way you finished, that also gives an air of redundancy. You know, you also like an air of surprise, intrigue. So you want to add something new to the.
I like that. Add something new.
Spice.
I like that you brought that out. That is so true. Okay, so what about you? What do you think about starting how you want to finish?
I really think if you start a relationship, and let's just say the guy is a gentleman, he opens the door for you. Well, that's something you should expect even after you're married.
Exactly.
He should continue to open the door, continue to be a gentleman. But sometimes when people think that they have you, they will start slacking off. And I think you should be careful about things like that, because it seems that you're taking the person for granted now. And what my colleague said about adding intrigue, I think the longer you're in a relationship, the more you should add to make the other person feel that they are more important as time goes on. Don't make them feel less important, but they are more important. As the longer you stay together, the more you should do for your mate.
And a lot of times you go through the motions. Like when you first get together, you've got the honeymoon stage, you know, for the first 6 months. They wine you, they dine you, as she's saying, open the door for you. And, you know, basically just build you up. And then, like she said, once they've got you, then they think, okay, I've got her, so now why do I have to continue this? And then as you stay together, then if you don't learn to communicate and you don't put up boundaries, then that person begins to take advantage of you. And you have to put some boundaries up, because if not, then you'll end up like me, becoming an enabler and be in a very abusive situation. And because you haven't set up any boundaries for yourself, then you end up going through the cycle of being abused because you put up no boundaries and say enough's enough. And then the other part of it is when you're in a relationship for a long time. It was funny because we were just having this conversation, and I was like, what is it that causes a man to wine and dine at the first, 6 months to at least 9 months, And then after that, they seem to grow accustomed, and they don't think that they have to do the things that they did to catch you. And this was the reply from a man's perspective. And the man said, well, I guess because the competition's over.
Wow.
I said, the competition? And he said, yeah.
Pursuit
Because
is
men
over.
are
Yeah, they chase.
pursuing.
They chase.
They are
Mhm.
like when they're hunting, when a person's hunting, they're after something. But then after they obtain the trophy or they obtain the prize, they've accomplished that.
Yeah.
And then they just go through the motions until the next competition comes.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead. What were you
I
about
was
to
gonna
say?
that's good. That it just
Yeah.
brought to mind something.
Because what I want to say is, do you guys think that that opens the door for infidelity in relationships
Yeah,
when they are done with the chase?
yeah.
I mean, that they lose interest.
Because then
or
the
they-
next one that's out for the prey, they're going to come along, and if you don't know who you are, and you're not happy with yourself, and you're searching for all this love, you're going to fall for that next, as they say, don't jump from one skillet to the next skillet. That's a good little saying, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. Is you're so starved for love, and you're so starved for affection, you're so starved for words of affirmation. The next
Yes.
little person that comes along and whispers in your ear all the things you want to see and all the things you want to hear and all that, then you're going to be in that 6-month honeymoon stage, and then it's going to be right back to
the
that
same
next
thing.
So we need to figure out
Repeating
how to
the same
set boundaries up so we don't allow that to happen.
Exactly. I like what you said. I remember one day I was teaching marriage and more, and God just showed me something because, I was kind of talking to my single people about, being so quick to jump into a relationship and being intimate so fast. Because what happens is you have the blinders on and you can't see correctly. But then what it took me to, like, us as people, we know we have the need to eat, right? Just like we have the need for love. That's one of our basic needs that needs to be met. But when a person is hungry, have you ever just kind of paid attention to a homeless person eat? Or you give them something, they don't bless the food. They don't look at it, they just devour it. And then they don't think about, is this thing going to make me sick? All I know is just I'm hungry. But then when you're fed, that's when your equilibrium comes back into play, when that need is being met. When you're hungry, because when you're hungry, you're dizzy, you're not thinking straight. You just want to eat, pretty much. But when you have certain expectations or certain boundaries in place, I'm not just going to go eat at anybody's kitchen. I'm not just going to go sit at anybody's table and eat. And also, if I'm preparing food for myself, I'm going to do what it takes to prepare the food so that I won't get sick, and that my family won't get sick. But when we do that, dealing with love, it's the same way.
But we understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
When you're
so-
hungry, and I think the kids use thirsty now.
Yeah,
when
thirsty.
someone is thirsty, and, anything goes, and you just want whatever need you have, you want it satisfied.
At
But
that
you
time.
cannot afford to play with your life like that.
Exactly.
Because if you rush into a relationship and then you get intimate, and then for men, it may just be a physical thing.
Yes.
But for women, it involves the emotion. And
Yes.
it's something when you toy with a person's emotion.
Exactly.
And I think a woman needs to set the standards.
Exactly.
No, I met you last night. I'm not gonna.
Let's just keep it
Let's
real.
just keep it real.
'Cause in
I
this
just
day
met
and
you,
time-
and you expect me to do this. I don't think so.
Exactly. And
you
then they
go
don't even
on.
have to put in the
They
word.
don't have to, but
they
you
don't
know.
even require the
That's
man
right. But
to
you
put in the
know
word.
when someone
Yes.
is pursuing just that. And I think the woman needs to set the boundaries and try to get to know a person.
Exactly. Do
And
the
then
work.
have that person respect you enough, or at least put on a semblance that, put on something that they respect you. And then you'll know if that happens and they leave you, well, they just got what they wanted.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? But I think it's up to the woman to set the standards.
I do too.
Because not putting men down.
Yeah.
But men, like you said, they are the hunters.
Exactly.
And they pursue you. And if you are given in too easily, well, they're going to think, well, if she gave in to me that easy, well, why should I stick around?
Exactly.
The next person, the next person, next person. So the woman should set standards.
I love that. And that goes back to the self-worth and knowing
That's
your
right.
value.
You
and
must
I think
know.
what happens to a lot of women is, it's like when they get that need met, I've seen this in relationships, it's like, okay, it's so good in the beginning, they go hard, they go strong. Then, like I say, because after you eat, that's when everything line back up. Then they start to realize all the junk that they put into themselves.
That's right.
That they've allowed to come into their lives because I wasn't full, I wasn't whole, and I wasn't complete. And I was looking for something in this person. And you wonder why a lot of women stay in relationships that they know that they shouldn't be in. It's because they're used to that dysfunction now.
Right.
That's their new normal, and they don't think that it's anything wrong. And I'd rather have this than to have nothing at all.
Right.
And then it goes back again to self-worth.
Self-worth.
Because once you know who you are
Yes.
and whose you are,
That's right.
you know your value.
That's right.
You know
And may
your
I
worth,
just
and you're not
interject
gonna.
here? We're not trying to be all that, because with me, it took me a while to know who I am
Oh, yes.
and whose I am.
Right.
I had to start loving myself.
Yes.
And I tell you, once you love yourself, you will require others to love you
Yes.
and treat you with respect. And then you will give that respect.
Exactly.
And it's not an overnight thing, it's a progressive thing.
Yes.
And we all have different experiences, and some of us, maybe had parents that told us, you are wonderful, you're beautiful. So it started earlier with some people. Some people did not have parents to tell them that they were beautiful, or you're great, or you can be somebody.
Yes.
And then the first man who came along
Come
said,
on now.
you were beautiful, now you think he's in love with me. But that's not true.
This
and you
is
give
so
all
true.
of your life into one person, and then when that person disappoints you, then you're back down where you started. Well, I
Wow.
must not be this, I must not be that. But once you love yourself,
Oh,
it's
that
hard
is so
for men
wonderful.
to come in and just make you feel like that you are nobody.
Exactly.
And make you feel,
Like you don't
inferior and like you don't matter.
Exactly.
And but men call that a strong woman. So I guess I must be a strong black woman.
I guess you are. Shoot. I love that you brought that out, because it's definitely a journey learning your true identity.
That's right.
And I think childhood has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
The
A whole
things
lot.
that you've experienced, the things that you saw had a lot to do with
Yes.
it. My mom, I'll say this, she was very strict. When her and my stepdad, back then, my sister's father had separated, she had to raise us by herself, so it was hard for her. So she had so much fear in us, it was ridiculous. It truly followed me into my adulthood. And I started feeling that way towards every authority figure. And I had to remember that, okay, wait a minute, I'm grown now. That was my mama. That's what she had to do back then. But I don't have to be inferior or feel less than, or feel like I don't have an opinion, and I don't need to require certain things from people.
Yeah.
So even in rearing our kids, we have to be mindful to put that in them. Like you said, tell them that they're beautiful.
That's
tell them that
right.
they're wonderful. Tell them that they're gifts.
That's
Because,
right.
I thank God that He'll show you what your children's gifts are, and you can cultivate that, make them confident in that, and let them grow up with that self-esteem and that confidence to know that I am somebody, and I do have worth, and I have something to give to the world.
That's
And
right.
I'm worth waiting on.
Yes.
Because what I tell my daughter, especially my oldest one, because she's at a point now where we have to talk about sex and, not having sex before marriage and keeping your virginity, because once you give it away, you can never get it back. That's your prize. That's your gift. That is for your husband. I'm like, that's just like if somebody buy you something and they open it up and already, it's already been open.
Yes,
But this
yes.
is supposed to be something really special for you.
Yes.
And I think if we could kind of communicate that way to our youth,
Yes.
maybe, they would take it more seriously.
Right.
And know that it's just not nothing you just give away, just to be doing, just to get a feeling. That's sacred.
Yes.
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 Because every time your flesh becomes one with someone and they make a deposit into you, that's their spirit.
So
And then when you move on to the next one,
You're taking
there's
your
another-
spirit and another spirit with you.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. So we want to be, mindful of that and just really, again, require, the respect and know our worth and know, that it's okay to have boundaries.
Yes.
When you know how you are, you don't have to put yourself on discount.
Right.
Or put yourself on sale.
That's right.
Because if you think about certain vehicles or certain
That's
antique
right.
pieces, they don't never discount them.
That's
I don't
right.
care how much you want it. If you want that vehicle,
That's
you
right.
gonna work
That's
to get
right.
it.
That's right.
I don't care how long you got to save for it. If you really, really want it, you're gonna work to
You
get
don't
it.
see a lot of advertisements for Bentleys and
Come on
and
now.
all these expensive cars because either
Yes.
you want it or you don't.
Right.
You know what you have to give up to get it.
Exactly.
And so you don't discount that.
That's
and
true.
we cannot be discounted.
That's right.
No, we cannot
Yes.
as women
And just
and in relationships.
definitely.
And I think we should teach young ladies early to value who you are.
Yes.
Not what Hollywood says you are.
That's right.
And I
That's
think
right.
that has a lot to do with it, especially
Right.
reality TV
That's
today,
right.
because they want to be
Like
like
the
the people,
Kardashians and
the
all
people
that.
they see, and the Jocelyn Hernandezes and
Yes,
the
right.
Stevie J's and all of that, and they, and that's
Beyonces
what's
and
being,
all that.
yes, that's what's being glorified.
But all of that is so temporary.
Yeah.
And even our young men need to know that looks are just surface. You need
Yes.
someone with character and with
Yeah.
integrity and with self-worth because anything can happen to looks. I mean,
Yes.
you can be in love with a girl because the way she looks. She could be in a fire,
Yes,
an accident.
I've seen
Now,
that
what are you in
happen.
love with now?
Right.
Exactly.
And so we need to, make our young men understand
That is so
that
true.
you just don't give up your virginity.
That's
They're
right.
just they're
'Cause
it's
not
the same.
okay.
That's
It's
right.
the same.
And having babies out of wedlock. It's it's just a thing. I have a baby. I have a baby.
And
Well,
then
that's not
with all of
anything
these
to-
different women.
That's right.
And you can't be the effective parent that you need to
No,
be
no.
because now you're not with this one over here and now you're not with that one
that's
over there
right.
and you just making babies. You know what this makes me think about? I don't know if you guys got to watch it, but Ayanna Van Zandt, when she did that about the man with the 36 kids.
Yes, we saw it. Mhm.
I saw that and I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
And I felt like she started something, and my prayer was that it would continue on to save our men and let them know, be effective fathers, be in the home, be whole.
Yes.
And I love what you said, teaching them to keep their virginity for their
Yes,
wives.
that's right.
Teaching them how to be good providers, teaching them how to be good husbands,
Yes.
teaching them how to, be good fathers
But
and
then
parents.
it starts with each individual young lady, each individual young man. It is a personal thing.
Yes.
You will not take advantage of me. You will not disrespect me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're the other person, because we can't make anybody do anything.
Yes.
And so we need to teach, and then they need to, adhere to the teaching. That's why God made mother and father,
Exactly.
so that the children could be,
Yeah.
And then even at
Have that balance.
it's hereditary. It's your heredity and your environment. Your parents can do so much, but then you get with somebody else, and then that plays into it.
Yes.
And so we just thank God that He is so graceful and so merciful
Yes.
that even when fathers refuse to stay, that mothers had
Yes.
enough, whatever they needed, to raise the children
Yes.
and to make good children out of a bad situation.
Exactly.
And that's the grace of God. Because
That's
you can have a
true.
mother and a father and still mess up. But I'm just saying how good God is. Don't give up.
Yes.
Right.
Just keep teaching.
That's right.
Keep teaching.
And I believe that goes again to show the strength that we have as women that we don't know that we possess. You know, and sometimes God has to allow us to be in certain situations in order for that strength to come forward, because he knows what he put in us. Sometimes we just don't know it, you know. And I like what you said about the outside, people looking at the outside. One analogy I used one time in Marriage and More, our first lady, she does this thing called the first lady's favorite things at her house. So what she does is she gives a lot of gifts away, and it's nice stuff too. But I was looking, and so we all had to pull numbers, and you go from the lowest to the highest. So I had my eye on this box. It was a big old pretty box too, and I was like, that's mine. I'm gonna get that box, baby. I named it and claimed it and everything. And then she had some little bitty boxes and medium sized boxes, but I wanted that big. I was like, Lord, please don't let nobody get it. So I got the box, unwrapped the box, and it was I think a Santa Claus that I had already had. You know, them little dancing Santa Clauses.
You were looking at the wrapping and not what's inside.
Yeah.
But that goes right to the word. Man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. So we need to teach our young ladies and young men to at least stay around long enough to learn something about the person they are spending time with.
Exactly. And one thing I tell them in Christian dating is, don't do this. Get to know the person before y'all start being intimate. Because technically, you know, biblically speaking, y'all shouldn't be doing none of that anyway. But, you know, watch them. Look at their lifestyle. Get to know them. See, if you're not intimate with them, you're not all mushy and gushy on the inside, and you can make a sound decision on, do I want to date this person? Because when you start dating, the goal of dating is to eventually get married. But society tells us that you can go out here and casually date, and if you don't like this one, you can go get that one. Just like if you don't like this car, you can trade that in and get you another. And that's, you know, and we've allowed that to even come into the churches.
Yes.
You know, and they need to be able to see a difference between us, you know, and people of the world. And again, it's not to throw judgment or say that we are perfect, but it's just we're striving that way. You know, if you're really going to be a Christian, let's just try to really live it and be that, and let your life line up with the Word of God. I think this was such a good session. I really do. And another thing I want to say, next week we could probably pick back up on this. I don't know, because it seemed like the flow was going really good. But also, this is another analogy that I like. You know how I say you save your money, right? And you got this TV or you got something you're going to go buy. And you go and you buy it, and you get it home, and you open a box, and it's not what you wanted
that's
and
a
paid
disappointment.
for.
Yes.
So think about that in terms of a relationship.
Wow.
I invested all of this into this,
And
then when I get it to the house, and I start looking at the contents of what's in this package, I'm so disappointed, because I feel like I done invested all of my valuable time, all of my effort, all of my feelings, my emotions, all of those things that I cannot get back for nothing, because I was deceived. I've heard Bishop Jake say it all the time, you never marry the person you're dating. Because, you know, when you're dating, you're getting one thing. You know, when I'm going to put the makeup on for you, and I'm going to put the Spanx on and everything. But when I go home to my own house, the makeup coming off, the rollers going in, the Spanx showing up coming off. And it's just going to be what it is. You know, and that's why you really got to know. And I really thank God, you know, for my husband. Now, Lord, and we said to each other all the time, it takes a special kind of crazy, a special kind of man or woman to deal with me or you. So God knew what he was doing. But I'm like, I think at how my body has changed over the years, over the babies and over the weight gain, over the weight loss and all of that, and still just loving all of that regardless. And I could just be who I am and be in my own skin and be okay and know that this man loves me no matter
unconditionally.
Yes. So that's truly a blessing to have. Because I couldn't imagine me walking around here every day, all day with all that stuff on. I'm sorry. I just couldn't do it. I'm for real. I just can't. That's just not me. Well, ladies, it's truly been a blessed session. And guys, we hope that you enjoyed it and that you're blessed. And until next week, have a good one.
Keep up your boundaries.
That's right. Keep those boundaries in place. And if you don't have any, set some up.
Goodbye.
Bye.